Welcome, friends. We're talking Doctor Who Season 1, Episode 2 or 3, depending on who you are. Disney Plus thinks it's Episode 3. The rest of the world, seemingly, Episode 2. Be that as it may, this one's entitled The Devil's Chord. Now, there will be spoilers ahead. If those are not for you, consider this your last chance. Let's crack on with the show. Alright, so if you've been following along, you probably realized that the last episode, the premiere Space Babies, very, very far from my favorite thing. In fact, possibly one of my least favorite Doctor Who episodes ever from any era. It was just juvenile and didn't hit any of the right notes for me, so much so that I wonder why it was the premiere episode. But this episode, I'm happy to say, is a drastic improvement over that one, which, again, I'm not sure why they decided to air these in the order that they did, but that doesn't mean I didn't have any issues with this episode at all. But let's crack into it, because the main meat of this episode is the grand introduction of that Disney money, that Disney synergy, bringing in that Marvel connection to introduce as the main antagonist an Avengers-level character. That's right, we get...
Puny Banner died a long time ago. There's only the Maestro now.
Sorry, after reviewing my notes, I realize it's a completely different Maestro. Sorry about that.
My notation is... Maestro.
That being said, I really do like this cosmic level threat, this whole, avatar of a conceptual idea, this time being this character, the Maestro, the child of the toy maker that we saw back in the 60th anniversary, is actually like the embodiment of all music. I really like these cosmic ideas, these sort of eldritch ideas that really can't be explained, they can't be put in a box, they can't be rationalized and understood by human thought. So it's kind of just like trying to explain things through a frame of reference that we'll actually get. These are the type of things that I really, really enjoy in not just sci-fi, but horror and all sorts of things. Maybe it's because I am one, but that remains to be seen. The real missed opportunity, I think, in this episode, however, is the utilization of the Beatles. Now, I don't think this is necessarily in the same vein as the wasted opportunity in Let's Kill Hitler. I think that was more played up as a joke from the start, and they never had any intentions of actually using him in the story as a real main component. Here, there was all the opportunity in the world to utilize the Beatles more fully in the story itself. They were introduced at the beginning, playing their really, really crappy music.
My dog is alive, he's not dead.
Obviously, after things had changed in the 20s when music was just ripped out of the hearts of men. That was a nice concept. I really like how they went back to visit the Beatles and they're playing just the milquetoast generic music you could imagine. It's the last gasp of any real artistic music at all, and you couldn't really even indicate that as artistic if you wanted to. Still better than AI, he says, as he's using an AI-generated image in his thumbnail and his background. Moving right along, I do like that they brought in this historical context to show just how widely things had changed. And I do also pretty much like the way that John and Paul at the end were the ones to sort of save the day by playing the secret code, sort of like a Rumpelstiltskin or a Mxyzptlk, if I said that even remotely close to correctly, tricking them back into their alternate dimension realm and trapping them until they can somehow escape in the future. Which leads me to another question. So at the very beginning of the episode, we get this kind of cool cold opening scene where we get to see not Robin kind of giving piano lessons to this student, Henry Arbinger, I think was his name, and haha, jokes.
Henry Arbinger, that's it.
How did he find his way into the world? Is this sort of like an Antichrist analogy, like Damien or something, where you can sneak that across? Is this like in Stargate, where you can sneak a sort of, kind of, maybe not really ascended being like the Orosai into our universe, even though there's grand rules up there stopping it? I don't know. I'm tying in way too many things for this episode right now. It just kind of leads me to wonder how this character made it into our realm to begin with, and I kind of wanted a little more follow-up on that. I felt like that could have been fleshed out a little bit more. We also get to find here that this is a 6-month time skip or a time jump within canon since the last time we spent any time with them. So Space Babies took place the Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, something along those lines, right after the Christmas special. This episode is taking place in roughly June or July. Ruby wasn't quite entirely certain what her time frame was at this point, but that means half a year of adventures have happened since the last time we saw these two interact. Sure, I know this has happened in Doctor Who a lot before. There's always adventures between the adventures we see, but it just felt a little jarring to skip so far ahead in their relationship in the second episode. I feel like we're still supposed to be feeling like they're learning to come to grips with who they are, but they're already in the episodes just the best of friends from episode 1 to begin with, so it kind of doesn't feel like we have this learning time we did in some of the older Doctor Who episodes. Again, it's kind of a nitpick, but it leaves me feeling a little hollow, similar to how, even though this was a well thought out and well structured episode as far as the cool visuals, the musical notes as weapons, and the alternate future where the world was kind of destroyed because we didn't have music in our souls anymore, it did feel like it wasn't quite a lived-in universe. And I'm wondering if that ties into the fact that none of these stories are actually happening in our world. Because if you saw my theory in the last episode, all of this is a construct being created out of, I'm guessing, the Doctor's mind, maybe also Ruby's mind, but I'm also thinking Ruby might be a construct as well, and all of this is being generated from the Doctor's emotions, personality. Because if you see at the beginning and the end of this episode, the intro music, so the actual Doctor Who theme song, is bleeding through the jukebox. They're listening to the Doctor Who theme when the episode starts, and at the very end we have that whole fever dream of a musical number, and the Doctor says this whole everything ends with a twist, and then he winks at the camera and they go into a dance. So the entire episode is pretty much sandwiched in between a scene that indicates they are breaking the fourth wall, and another scene that indicates they're breaking the fourth wall. So is any of this real? I don't think so. I think we're going to learn at the end of the season, or at some point in time, that all of this is a grand illusion, and it's some sort of trap, trick, or maybe even a self-induced sort of state that the Doctor is in for some reason. I don't know exactly all the details, but it definitely feels like none of this is happening, and I don't know if that's going to hold up all that well when that reveal comes out. Oh, I really liked the use of the whole cone of silence. I don't like the look of the sonic screwdriver. I don't necessarily love that the sonic screwdriver keeps getting these amazing new abilities to never be seen again, but it being a sonic screwdriver, having the ability to cancel sound, that is a good use. That is something a sonic screwdriver should be able to do. Couple other things I really liked. The Doctor being called the Lord Temporal. That's clever. The Devil's Chord being known as the Tritone. 3, obviously we have this whole Triad Industries thing going on, which is again an anagram of the TARDIS. So how all of this stuff connects, there was something similar to that last episode I just completely glossed over because I couldn't be bothered to really care about space babies all that much. But there are a lot of interesting nuggets being dropped in here. It's just a question of, can the episodes in and of themselves survive and engage and be fun? And for the first episode, I don't think that's the case. For this episode, yes, I enjoyed what was happening, even though structurally I felt there was a bit lacking. There wasn't quite a full story. It kind of felt more like they had all the beats of the story they wanted to tell, but it didn't necessarily go from A to B to C to E in a complete linear fashion. Now, they weren't skipping around out of time. It just, the best way I can describe it is, do you know those video games that just kind of throw you into it and it's like, here's a stage complete, here's another stage. There's no real framing device giving you a progression of the story. It's just, you go here, you go here, you go here, game's over. That's sort of how I felt here. There wasn't a real narrative driving the story. I can kind of get past that since I did enjoy the pieces that were in here, but I'm hoping that isn't the case for the rest of the series. It's a market improvement, like I said from the last episode. In the next episode, from all of the scuttlebutt out there, the Stephen Moffat written kind of landmine, scary horror messes with your mind episode, I'm definitely hoping that's going to be a standout for this season. So far, I'm very mixed on how this season is going, but if it's going to continuously improve from episode to episode, I am very cautiously optimistic that we're actually going to get something pretty special by the end of these, 8 episodes, which which is another problem in and of itself, but let's not dig into that right now. At the end of the day, like this a lot better. I could actively see myself going back and rewatching this episode for some enjoyment factor, whereas I don't think I could with Space Babies. What did you think? Leave all of that down below. Like, share, subscribe, do all those fancy YouTube things. But until next time,
There was always a twist at the end.